If you aren't someone who's already into the Expanse, whether it's from the books or the hit show, I have to ask, do you have a pulse? Maybe that's a bit harsh, but still, I came into this setting through the show and enjoyed it immensely, especially the character of Christiana Vasarala.
Everybody finally gets a fair chance. Denying people
Everybody
that
gets a
opportunity would
pony
be-
and a blowjob. She sounds like she's running for fucking prom queen.
She's great. However, you won't need prior knowledge of the setting to enjoy the game, though it seems to take place at the same time as the show's events. Its focus is on original characters doing their own thing, while the disaster on Eros unfolds. What is that disaster? If you don't already know, then I don't want to spoil it for you. Let's just say there was a bioweapon involved, and everyone wants to control it. But let's get into it, shall we? If you enjoy this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to stay up to date on all future uploads. Osiris Reborn is being developed by Owlcat Games, who you may know from the Pathfinder games and Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader. Here we play as one in a pair of twins working for the private security company Pinkwater. The playtest put us at an early stage of the story where we've lost the rest of our team, our original ship, and are in the process of limping back home to Pinkwater Station. We were enjoying some shore leave at the asteroid station of Eros when things went pear-shaped. Our choice of classes gives us the officer and the hacker, so soldier or engineer, and we can also choose whether we're Earthborn or a Belter. What does that mean? Earthborn is exactly what it sounds like, your standard human, and it carries with it a whole heap of political connotations and assumptions about what kind of person you are in relation to the rest of the solar system. A Belter is someone born out in space, specifically those living throughout the asteroid belt, hence the name. Belters are distinguished by their long, lanky bodies thanks to not growing up in Earth's gravity, which makes them like fish in water when they're out in zero-G, but physically incompatible with visiting Earth unless they're submerged in special water tanks. Exposing a Belter to Earth's gravity is actually shown to essentially be a torture method. The neat thing about this is that if you choose to be a Belter, you and your sibling will tower over almost everyone else unless they too are Belters. But like with being Earthborn, that will carry its own host of assumptions people will make about you. Anyway, we land at Pinkwater in our stolen escape vessel and are greeted by Zafar with a rare commodity, coffee. Explaining that everything went tits up on Eros and everyone died, we're sent along to speak to our boss O'Connell while Zafar fixes up the ship. You might notice in my footage that things are a little choppy, and I played around with the graphics as much as I could through separate runs. It smoothed out in places and got significantly worse in others, so I'm hoping this is just a case of needing more optimization that the team will fix going forward, because other than that, the game looks really neat. Design-wise, this very much feels like The Expanse rather than any other sci-fi, which you'll notice immediately on our arrival at Pinkwater Station. Do I love most kinds of science fiction? Yes. Does this kind of science fiction scratch my brain in a very particular way? Yes. Only burning fuel when you need to accelerate or decelerate makes sense. There's no friction in space, so until some other force imposes itself on you, that initial burn will fire you off in the direction of your choosing, and you won't need to keep the jets hot. Walking through the main hall, we can overhear different conversations going on, some about personal relationships, some about work issues, and others about the events we hear on the news. Specifically a news broadcast that references the inciting events of the show. I haven't read the books, I don't know if the show follows them beat for beat, so the show is my reference point. I'm sorry. The important thing is that an ice hauler called the Canterbury was destroyed, a man called James Holden blamed Mars for it, and Eros is locked down thanks to a mysterious outbreak. An outbreak we just escaped from. I'm sure this action won't have consequences.
Sir, please listen. An unknown ship is approaching the station. Appeared right in front of us. The radars were clear.
To take what I've offered to. Two criminals have taken refuge at your feet. I am going to arrest them for stealing Protogen company property.
Protogen? I remember that brute. We saw her on Eros.
So, neat detail about this. If you visit Larry in Dispatch, aside from talking to him and getting a quest to deliver a painting he made for his mother, you can notice this ship approaching before it happens.
Larry, there's a weird blip on the LiDAR.
That's my future. I'm gonna throw myself out of the airlock if I'm not left in peace.
I'm serious. This spot is a degree hotter than the surrounding space.
Probably a dust cloud or some debris. It happens.
How do they miss this? Well, if the hull is designed to deflect or absorb radar signals, the only way to notice if something is out there is heat signature, which can be mitigated if the ship is equipped with active cooling systems and rendered nigh indistinguishable from its surroundings if the engine is shut off. And since this particular ship is from Protogen, they had all the money in the solar system to spend on cutting-edge technology, of which we shall see more of very soon. At this point, we can argue with our boss to take up arms or just ask him to cover for our escape and we'll find our own way off the station. Either way, you and your twin Jay end up scampering off through the vents and fighting through different areas of the station. The combat feels very good, with a handful of abilities to use, different weapons, environmental hazards to unleash, and the engage functionality of our companion, which orders them to focus fire on a chosen target or trigger a hazard. I do wish taking cover was a little more sticky or automatic, but it could just be a case of getting used to hitting a button to get into cover. This is probably better than dropping into cover when you didn't want to because you moved too close to a viable surface. The real standout moment for me throughout this test was when we exited onto the station's surface.
Wow. You know, it used to be that the infinity of space terrified me.
And when did it stop?
When I realized that actually, it's freedom.
When you're inside, the scale of the station feels very abstract, but stepping outside brings it into sharp focus as everything seems to rotate around you. The sun, a distant blaze of white light, stars in every direction, and Jupiter looming into view. The lack of sound, only really hearing what is directly in contact with us, vibrations through the station's surface, our own footfalls, the feedback of the gun in our hands. I really liked this section. It felt really good and gave a great sense of being in an unconventional battlefield as you progress across the curvature of the station's surface, navigate different angles, walkways, and eventually being forced to fling yourself through open space as debris flies all around you, making sure you compensate for the spin of the station to stay in alignment with your destination. This moment in particular, where we get knocked off course by debris and have to get back to the station, with the knowledge that if we miss, we're dead, immediately reminded me of watching the movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock. That feeling of relentless inertia and the pitiless dread of knowing that nothing is going to save you if you make a mistake here. Thankfully, we do manage to grab on and make our way to an airlock. The Protogen mercs block our way forward, scanning for us, at which point we either climb into a nearby airlock or wait for Zavar to distract them. It doesn't seem to matter too much though, as both areas have the same layout. Throughout our fights with Protogen, we've seen drones, jet-powered grenades, and wrist-mounted armor-piercing gadgets. Everyone has been using conventional firearms, shields, and standard armor that protects from a few shots unless you catch them in the head. That is until we're caught off guard by the elites, these Protogen guards who seem to accompany their leader, the one who spearheaded this attack. They are equipped with lasers and armor that is impervious to our weapons. It's not a fight we can win, and it's only because of Larry showing up and closing the bulkhead at risk to himself that we get out of it alive. Finally reaching the main hall, we have to fight our way through more of Protogen's people to release the clamps on our ship, with Zavar helping us by firing on specific areas with the ship's PDCs, or point defense cannons. This becomes the key to our survival when the elite guards show up again, as while our caliber of weaponry can't penetrate their armor, the PDCs make short work of them, allowing us to scramble onto the newly christened Gemini and make our escape. And that is how the playtest ended, a good solid chunk showcasing what the game had to offer, the conversations you could have with people, the exploration to find items, materials, or information, the space sections, weapon upgrades, skill trees, all of it. I am extremely excited to see how this turns out by next year, and it's made me want to rewatch the show. It's set to release summer 2027 last I checked, so my hope is that it receives a lot more polish in that time to shore up the graphical issues I experienced. Aside from that, this looks incredibly promising and is something to keep an eye on. Thank you to Alcat Games for reaching out. Getting to see a game mid-development is a new experience. I appreciated it a lot, and I made sure to fill out the survey to the best of my ability. Until next time. Thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment down below, whether it's a game you'd like to see me cover, what you thought about the one we just discussed, or to tell me about your pets. Special shout out to my patrons and YouTube members who are all very handsome people, and if you'd also like to be called a very handsome people, you can support the channel through Patreon or become a member here on YouTube. Either way gets your name in the credits. If you're into live streams, you can catch me every Wednesday on Twitch at 8 PM British time. I can also be found over on Blue Sky and TikTok when I remember to post on either of those. All that being said, don't forget to drink your water, take your medication, be kind to yourselves, and I will see you all next time.